Alright, what's up, guys? Same Game Freak. Yeah. So, I want to this time make a video it's kind of a continuation from the last video, but it's something I feel like really needs to be hammered home because I feel like it's still a weird thing that's currently been happening that doesn't make any fucking sense. And as a continuation from the whole Nintendo third-party situation. And I understand that as the console manufacturer and the publisher of their games and other games, Nintendo will always be held accountable for whatever happens or doesn't happen on their system. But I want to just have this question out here because I feel like a lot of Nintendo fans, for some reason, have gone in this fucking direction and acted like the third parties are golden now. Remember when we used to bitch, and not just Nintendo fans, but just in gamers in general, used to bitch about the poor quality we were getting games? Like, people were sitting there excited for Star Wars Battlefront 2, but did you just forget that the last game was a piece of shit and was lacking content and was literally a game you played for maybe a few hours and you were done with it? Like that hand-fisted embarrassment of a game, and then all of a sudden we're so excited for Battlefront 2. And this is what trips me out. Like, this whole third-party situation with Nintendo, I'm not going to say act like Nintendo isn't at fault on some level, but at the same time, I feel like nobody else is, like, going in the opposite direction. I think T and Juice, I think I've seen the most videos kind of addressing the other side of the coin. They're like, wait a minute. I mean, just hold on a second. The third parties are at fault here, too. Like, what's going on that side of the fence? And that's the other problem. We're all playing armchair analysts like we know what the fuck is going on. But the reason why I'm bringing up the third-party thing specifically is that these are third-party game makers, developers, who have consistently and repeatedly fucked over the consumer. Remember when we made a huge thing about DLC, how we used to get angry as fuck about DLC? Well, specifically, just using Capcom, for example. Marvel vs. Capcom 3... and probably even Street Fighter 5, people were data mining the game and seeing that there were other characters that were locked behind the disc and that were going to be unlocked later to be DLC, a part of season passes and shit. And we were like, this is bullshit. And the gamers, for the most part, spoke out and said, we're not buying that shit, and that's why Street Fighter 5 didn't sell that well. And then Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite comes out, and we already know about the lackluster roster. There's already DLC for characters that were in like the first few games, and it's like in the fucking in-game graphics look like ass, and you're just like, yeah, they're totally a trustworthy company. And so my issue is, when the fuck did we start acting like these people were someone we could trust everything they fucking say, in the sense of, look, we're interested in the Switch. We just don't. And honestly, I think it's more than just simply power. I don't think the Switch's issue with third party is just power. I think the problem is also just a few other minor things. I think it may not cost as much, but it probably, as the Wii U did, but it probably still costs more to put games on that comparison to putting a game on Xbox One. Like, if you're making a PlayStation 4 or a PC game and you want to port it to console, I think it's just a situation of that the Xbox One may not cost that much in comparison and may not require as much work. The Nintendo system, although maybe really easy to do, may still be a pain in the ass in terms of finances. It might, because it costs to put to put games on each console. A lot of people and that's why the big-ass suggestion of Nintendo needs to start eating money for these games, these third-party games, it's become such a hot topic of discussion. Although I would like to make the argument, and this is just me, and obviously you guys may feel differently, but I kind of would make the argument of something like, would you want Metal Gear Solid 5 or would you want Superman Bomber R? Super Bomberman R. Why did I fuck that up? Would you want that or would you want Metal Gear Solid 5? And explain what I mean by that is that, because Ubisoft said something that I thought was interesting. They said, we started thinking about what kind of games we should put on Nintendo systems. Because as much as people like to act like if the game is on the system, that means the system has, that the game, it makes the system better. the reality of the situation is there are some games that just aren't going to sell on Nintendo platforms. Like, it's not anything hard to believe. And it's not like this nasty pill to swallow. But there are just certain games that don't fucking sell as well. And I'll be real with you personally. On a personal level, if they had announced Assassin's Creed, if they had announced FIFA 18 and it had been like the full version, not this somewhat customizable Nerf version we're getting. If they had announced Anthem, if they had announced all these games that people were complaining about being on the system, for the most part, I don't really give a shit about those games. Like, dead ass. And even if I did, it's not like my default is like, well, I'm going to buy it on my Switch when I own a PlayStation 4. That's what trips me out. You got a whole bunch of multi-console owners complaining about these games, and I know for a fact that most of them wouldn't buy the Switch version of those games. Not even because the Switch version sports are bad, but because you own a PlayStation 4 and a PC or an Xbox One. You own consoles that would run the games better, or at the very least, look better. Like, I'll give you an example. About a game I actually do give a shit about. 2 Sonic games this year. We got Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces. Personally, Sonic Mania, that's been Switch. That's been pre-ordered on Switch. That is a Switch game for me. Sonic Forces has been recently confirmed, and this will change depending on how we go further on in development for Sonic Forces. But for right now, it is implied that Sonic Forces on Switch runs at 30 frames compared to the 60 frames the other 2 console versions run at. And that's nothing against the Nintendo version of Sonic Forces, but I would like to play Sonic Forces at 60 frames, and there's no point inherently limiting myself just for the sake of portability when I could just get when I want to play the game in 60 frames. Like it's one of those things. So like as of right now, I'm leaning towards the PlayStation 4 version, depending on what changes in the coming months. And that's not like an unquality port. Like most people have talked about Sonic Forces' Switch version, just said there might be some lacking in textures, but for the most part, it runs fine. It looks almost identical, just looking at some of the off-screen footage. It's just that it runs at 30 frames, and you know, for games like Sonic and probably like Fighters, almost most games you would want the game to run at 60. I mean, remember guys, that's what being a gamer is. I think part of it is just a lot of developers are like, I don't want to just bring Assassin's Creed over. I mean, everyone talks about how we want our consoles to be different, but you're overly concerned about Nintendo getting every other game. And maybe it's because I personally have recognized that even if I got those games on my Switch, I don't have any intention of buying them. Because I just wasn't interested in the games to begin with. I'd rather third parties think out what they're going to put out on the system. Now that doesn't excuse things like Dragon Ball Fighters or fucking Monster Hunter Worlds. Franchises that have been known and well known to sell on Nintendo consoles, skipping Nintendo consoles. That's just bullshit. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Which is why I had no problem when fucking T was like, fuck EA and fuck Capcom. It's like, okay, fine, you put out Street Fighter 2. Even if Street Fighter 5 is still exclusive to PlayStation, you gonna give a Street Fighter 2? Like, dead ass. You give a Street Fighter 2, in Japan they get a Monster Hunter up-res port of a 3DS game, and the US isn't even getting that localized as of right now. I say as of right now, and then I go back and I look at certain games and go, wait a minute, Monster Hunter Stories that's coming out later this year for the 3DS, that's published by Nintendo. Skyrim is published by Nintendo. I think Nintendo is like, look, I think we all, because realistically, you have to rebuild faith with third party. Now, obviously, I agree with the argument that third party shit the bed. And to me, I think some of this is bullshit. Like the fact that Bethesda can't front the bill on a fucking Skyrim port. You shitting me? It's Skyrim. It's literally been out on everything else. And I know damn well you've completely made your money back in spades on this fucking game. And you made Nintendo front the bill for putting the game out on the Switch. Eat a dick. Like, that's trash to me. It's fucking disgusting. But it was like when I looked at the Rocket League developer interview that I mentioned in the last video. When I saw that seeing certain games out on the Switch is what kind of reaffirmed their decision to make games on the Switch, is when it clicked to me that part of it is just them seeing the games. I mean, because honestly, it's kind of is a sheep mentality, but it is a thing that happens. That people are unsure when they're like the only ones that got their foot out on some shit. But like other people when you see a bunch of people go do something, whether it's smart or not, the sheep mentality kicks in and you end up getting more developers. And I think part of it might be that certain developers think, oh, well, we can't run certain games. I wouldn't be surprised if them getting Rocket League to run and getting Rocket League to run well on Switch wouldn't inspire other game devs to start flowing in. And on top of that, there's a whole bunch of games we don't know about. But I just want to reiterate that people need to stop acting like the third parties are golden. I'll give you an example. Bandai Namco is going to give us Xenoverse 2 and not give us Dragon Ball FighterZ Z or Dragon Ball FighterZ. And you want to know why? It's because Xenoverse 2 didn't sell well. It's not because, like, they act like that's a gift. That's not a fucking gift. You gave us that game because it didn't sell well on the other consoles. Because Xenoverse, to be real with you, had the appeal of being a custom created character game, but like game mechanic wise is a piece of shit. I think almost a lot of people argue a lot of the 3D Dragon Ball Z fighting games are shit. And I'm talking about games that fight on the 3D plane. I'm not talking about like Tenkaichi that actually fights on the 2D plane. Well, I guess it kind of plays on the 3D plane, but you get what I mean. Like that's more like 2.5D in a way. I don't know how to describe Tenkaichi, to be fair. But like things like Raging Blast and shit, that can go eat a bag of dicks. And so can Xenoverse to an extent. Which is why I'm hoping they're not just doing what you think they're doing. Like, for example, there's an unannounced Tales game coming. Please don't let it be Berseria. Please don't. And like, look, that's not even hating on Berseria. That's just me going, bruh. Anybody who wants to play Berseria, and I guess, and see, the argument's weird, but it's hard to really make the argument balance, because the reality of it is that there are some people who won't play it unless it's on a Nintendo console. So I'm not saying there isn't any value in putting them on Nintendo consoles. I'm just saying I think games tend to work out better. And it also leads into certain franchises being revived, aka Bomberman, for example, when you try to do something different. Like Ubisoft putting out Assassin's Creed versus putting out a Mario versus Rabbids XCOM type game. I kind of would prefer the Mario and Rabbids game. And some of you would say, why can't we get both? I get that. Life isn't like that. I mean, just be real with you. Life just doesn't work that way. Sometimes you get both. And I think it's because it's an easier sell to third-party devs with Nintendo consoles that they can like combine IPs. Because let's be real here, the Rabbids have been dead in the States for years. And watch this game not only introduce people into the XCOM type of gameplay genre, but also reinvigorates the interest in Rabbids games again. Which could totally work out, because you know what they could do? They could put out, they got this game for you know, Mario and Rabbids XCOM or Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, and then like in a year or two we get a Rabbids game for Switch. Now, am I super excited for Rabbids games for Switch? No, but now we got another game out of it. And we're supposed to be getting Rayman Legends this year too. I mean, I don't mind ports. I'm just saying getting creative with what kind of games we get is more interesting. Like, I hope the Tales game that we get next is the new Tales game, not a fucking port of Berseria. Because well, then I don't know how well Berseria sold. But like, that's what I would rather have. You know, instead of giving me Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, give me Dragon Ball FighterZ. Like that's what I'd rather have. And as I said, these companies are playing the fucking game like everybody else. That's why I'm fucking tired of people acting like Nintendo is like fucking is over here looking like Satan with a pitchfork. And then there was one thing that really pissed me off. The game, it's like I said, we're all playing armchair analysts because we don't really know what the fuck is going on. But one thing that trips me the fuck out is somebody, and I'm not going to say who, but somebody fucking sat there with Reggie said in an interview that we would like all third-party games. And then, like, within the next few sentences was like, why doesn't Nintendo try harder for these third-party games? Not acknowledging not only Reggie's comment, but also acknowledging that, like, the games we're getting, Nintendo started that conversation. As I said, with most of the notable non-Nintendo exclusive, non-Nintendo made games, the conversation to get those games was started by Nintendo. I think Nintendo went to Bethesda. Nintendo went to Capcom. Nintendo went to Konami. Nintendo went to the Rocket League developers. I think, was it Synox? It wouldn't surprise me if we got a fucking Overwatch announcement in the next few months. And you want to know why? It's because I think Nintendo is doing that. It's just that people are impatient and they're freaking out. And I get it. Well, I mean, how much longer am I going to wait? Well, I mean, you haven't been waiting. I like how people who say that, and they're the ones who own multiple consoles. And then the last thing I want to address before I get out of here is the fucking buying third-party games. Buying third-party games you have no interest in because you want to support the Switch version. Or the Wii U version is what I mean to say. Because there was a whole bunch of people who bought Wii U ports of third-party games you had no interest in for the sake of supporting the game and acted like you were doing a service. No! Don't ever do that! John Shaw said it best. Don't ever buy games you have no interest in. That does not prove shit. That doesn't do anything. Oh, you gave them an extra $60, and considering some of those games were broken, fucked up ports to begin with, it's like, man, you wasted your money on some of those. Like, I have no problem telling you that to your face. If you bought certain games, especially like games like, I don't know, Arkham Origins or the Assassin's Creed games, I think 4 played okay, but I think 3 played like trash. If you bought like some of those terrible fucking ports because you felt like you were obligated to as a Nintendo fan, you wasted your fucking money. Not only because of the result, but just because who does that? That doesn't do anything. That doesn't help them make better games for consoles. Having fans buy them out of a bullshit sense of obligation. You buy games because you're interested in the games. Because like I said before, I don't give a fuck if we got Assassin's Creed, if we got Call of Duty, whatever the fuck. Most of the games coming out this year, I have no interest in. So I'm not sweating that I'm not getting Assassin's Creed on Switch. Now for those of you who are interested in Assassin's Creed, I can understand why you're mad. But for those of you who have no interest in Assassin's Creed but say I'm going to buy it because it's on Switch, don't eat a dick. Don't do that. Don't do that. You don't fix anything by doing that. It's like I said. Would I rather have Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle or would I rather have fucking Assassin's Creed? Personally, Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, because at least there, I'm somewhat interested in the gameplay. I've never been interested in Assassin's Creed. I've said that multiple times. And if Ubisoft continues that approach where they try to get creative about what games they put out on Switch, it's cool. But just remember, these devs also can't be trusted on a lot of bullshit. You know, thanks for Xenoverse 2, guys. Oh, by the way, where's the rest of that DLC? For those who don't know, Xenoverse 2 isn't going to have all the DLC. I think it's missing like a few. It's not missing a lot, but it's missing like a little bit of the DLC, and you're just kind of like, bruh. All you had to fucking do was put out a port. You couldn't even do that right. Bandai, what the fuck? And it's the same thing. Would I rather have a port of Samurai Orochi Warriors 3 or Hyrule Warriors? Rather have Hyrule Warriors. Or Fire Emblem Warriors in this situation. Because at least then I don't have to worry about a GIMP version being on me getting a GIMP version of a game compared to everybody else. I think developers on Switch just need to rethink how they're going to do things. Because some of these games I don't like. Some of these games I really don't sweat. But at the same time, everybody acts like that's Nintendo's fault for making the console as accessible as they can. And not realizing that some of it's just out of their fucking hands. They can only go and court so many developers at once. And if people aren't interested, then what do you do? What do? You do what they've been doing now. You push. And you try to grab the games that people give a shit about. Rocket League may be an old game, but hey, guess what? Rocket League gets streamed like a motherfucker on Twitch. People still play the fuck out of Rocket League. Minecraft is an old-ass game, but guess what? It's been in like the best sellers on the Switch eShop for I don't know how many weeks. Almost since it came out. You know why? Because people care about Minecraft. Some games won't sell on Nintendo consoles, so, you know, I hope these developers continue to think about what games to push. But some of this shit is inexcusable. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, that's bullshit, alright? What the fuck was the other one I was thinking of? I had it in my mind. Damn it, I forgot. Oh, Monster Hunter is bullshit, alright? You know, some of these games are just full on bullshit, alright? And I'll be like, there is no argument on that. Some of these games don't make sense in this bullshit. Because even if I wanted to believe in the argument, because even the funny thing is that Monster Hunter for PlayStation 4 doesn't look that high tech, like at all. The game looks like a fucking, I'm gonna get a lot of shit for this. The game looks like a slightly up-res Wii U port based off of that trailer. People are sitting there going, oh man, that trailer looks so fire, look at the graphics. And I'm like, guys, his hand, he's clipping through shit. His arm is clipping through shit. He's sitting there cooking food and gathering items. It looks exactly the way it did on the Wii U. Or on, it looks like an up-res of a Wii U game. Like, there's not that much different there. But, you know, third party's fucking golden for some goddamn reason. Anywho, I've talked enough. Leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. This has been the Insane Game Freak, and I will catch you guys later. Peace off.